And I've been a couple times, and it's been quite good.
I'm sure it is. I should explain it to sure you're right, Mike just said very quietly, to the best that he could, "Hey, get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape," when we were talking about the wrong names for the tavern. And I said, "That's what she said."
Yeah, so that's
and this is the result.
The correct name is Monty's Brick Tavern in Williston.
There's no monkey.
No.
Oh, all right.
Remember, no spanking. Back to that R rating.
Yeah. What do we have to do to get NC-17? I don't think I want to know.
Drop your pants, fire a rocket.
Oh.
Little Rickos. After I don't want to say Little Rickos, I'm happy enough to say the old one.
Big Rickles is enough for me.
Yeah. Well, anything Rickles is enough for me. I don't want to know about the girth.
Oh. Oh, Lord.
Or as he calls it, spider.
Oh, wow.
Now I've exposed his dirty little secret. That's what she said. Or did. So we go way off base. So yes, Roland plays at what tavern was it again?
That's Monty's Brick Tavern in Williston.
Right on. So that was the LD show. And then we all worked on the ill-fated BCP, better known as Burlington College Presents, which Mike and I introduced in the last episode as being an idea of students displaying their work to help promote the college, and them. And it was free promotional material, but no nuts that didn't. So anyway,
originally spearheaded by Alan Nichols.
Right.
Yes, we mentioned that.
Yeah. And we alluded to the fact that it was canceled, which it was unjustly, which leads into several civil rights violations for the three of us. That's a whole other podcast in and of itself, which you'll hear on another one, so don't want to go too much into that, other than to say we all have diagnosed learning disabilities, and that's how it becomes civil rights violations for the three of us. If everybody feels comfortable, would be willing to share what those disabilities are, and then we'll share our memories of working on that show.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I was certainly diagnosed with ADD, but
you've been able to.
Yeah, I would say that although certainly concentrating on things is still difficult, I have what I call the curse of 1,000 thoughts, which is typically it's hard for me to focus on anything because. Even as we speak right now, I'm thinking about multiple things at once, so it's hard to focus. But yeah, I think I've done fairly well, despite the fact that I was diagnosed young and treated when I was younger. And yeah, I'm sure if I went to any sort of observation at this point, they didn't have ADHD at that point, or they hadn't created a term for it. Maybe.
So you think you might fit into ADHD now?
I think it's certainly possible. Yeah.
Okay. As I have stated on other podcasts, and during that lecture, I have NOD, nonverbal learning disability. And that leaves you, sir. How about you?
Well, my learning disability is there's the nonverbal part of it. I mean, it's a nonverbal learning disability on the extremely too long spectrum of autism known as Asperger's. That's mine. It's more on the higher end in the lower, and we won't get to the lower.
Yeah, and nobody's bothered to try to break that list down into their own sections yet, although they really should. But each disability has their own spectrum, oddly enough.
That's true.
So that leads into memories of the canceled or ill-fated program.
Yeah.
Now, Mike and I had said that we had done a show called Bird to College Presents, and we had it, pretty well under control for what we could do. We had done 6 episodes. To be specific, we had 2 with the Director of Student Services, Sarah Email. We had 1 with Dylan Podiak. I was a guest for 1 with Mike hosting. Casey was a guest with Mike co-hosting, and I was a co-host / guest on that. And the other one was you, Mike, with me hosting, and then there was so that was what we had done.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 1 other person sign up, so we could have done that one.
Right.
But we were unjustly canceled, which gets into civil rights violations. Now, prior to that, we had done a season, we being Alan Nichols and myself, had done a season's worth, which were 3 episodes.
Yeah.
The first season, and it was Ashley the Rose, photography, the short films of Anthony Green, film student, obviously. And he dated the head of the film department's daughter, for the record. And there was another one with Mac Finley and Mary Vidham called simply Poetry, because they were both poets for the purposes of that, although Mary also got into audio mixing and painting, which she was extremely talented at.
Yes.
And she also had a beautiful singing voice, which I hope to God she gets over her fear of singing in public, because she'd be really good at it. So that said, that was the first season. Pretty much all my memories of it are in the show, except in the episodes themselves, except to say that prior to taping those 3 episodes back to back in one day, I had laryngitis. And so I had just recovered from laryngitis like the day before we went to go record those. And then when we went to go record, my eyes gave out during the first episode. So the entire first episode, I couldn't see anything. So I was hosting blind. So if you saw me looking long and hard at notes, which you probably did if you sat through the episodes, that's why. So I'll joke about it now, but it scared the hell out of me at the time. But anyway, that was that. And then the only other thing that I remember is when I looked up and I went to go ask Ashley the Rose the first question, my mind went blank, and that's why you see me stumble a lot through that interview. And I'm cracking jokes I wouldn't otherwise be cracking, other than the fact that, I was at a loss for anything else to say that was intelligent. And I'll readily admit that. I'm probably one of the few, but I'll readily admit it. So those are my memories of season 1. Season 2, Mike, I remember going and saying to you, I need to find a replacement for Alan Nichols. Would you be interested? And you said, of course. But it depends on what it entails and stuff. So I said, well, come on, let's go take a trip to Alan's office and chit-chat about it. And Do you remember what happened there?
Well, I remember Alan being all for the idea of passing the baton, as it were. So he was strongly in favor of keeping the show going, even without his supervision. So the idea is that Alan, again, who has a long list of working in high-profile productions, was in full support of the program, even as he was planning to leave. So we had the support of someone who had the experience and the knowledge of the program and knew exactly how it should operate. So I was fairly confident that if we had Alan's signature, that was going to be good enough.
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, I had gone prior to that when he was saying that he wanted to turn the reins over, and right before I said, well, let me go find Mike, I had gone to Barry Snyder, the head of the film department, who you'll hear more about in other podcasts, and same thing with Art Hessler, better known as Hess for shorthand. And you'll hear why on other ones. And I'm sure you'll come to the same conclusion that I did. So I had gone to them and the Director of Student Services, Sarah Mell, and my advisor, and I had said, this is what's going on. Are we all okay with this? And they had all signed off on it. So they reneged later on. But anyway, that's getting ahead of the story. So I had gone to them and said, well, is this okay? And they said, yeah. And then I had gone to you, and we'd gone in, and Alan, they said, was all gung-ho about it. So he signed off on it, and I got from there.
Yeah, and I think we discussed earlier one of the more difficult things was tracking down guests who would actually be able to show up when we needed them to show up. Part of my job, I think, as co-producer was to try to acquire or try to round up some folks who might be interested. And it was very difficult because I actually had a few who said yes, I'd be interested in doing it, but I can't do it now. I can put it off till later.
And then that later never came, or they bullshit their way out of it later.
Right.
Yeah, the reality was that if given enough time, I think that we could have maybe convinced somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 students total, counting the few that we did have.
I remember that,
I think that the program certainly had the potential to have a long lifespan. It was just a matter of, at the beginning, just getting a few guests.
Right.
And I thought,
I remember you doing that, and, and I helped you somehow with that. The thing that I... Of the process that I found I'd say a little frustrating. I mean, not too much, but just the fact that I kept, I would find people that would be interested, but then I had found myself over and over again explaining the whole premise of it. And
well, yeah, because people are incredulous, and it's like you can hand them a slip of paper and say, these are the websites, go check it out. But there's only so much that's going to do because they have to be willing to do that, and the majority of people are just freaking lazy.
It's true. In fact, I would think the majority of the folks I talked to were non-committal because there was nothing really in it for them, although I kept pitching the idea, hey, this is a chance to show off what you've been working on. Yeah. This is a chance to create something that would be great for your resume. Look, I have this on video.